The first bite I had was a tiger snake on my hand many years ago. I was away collecting with my father down on the Victorian border area and got bit with a tiger snake, and I remember he gave me a kick up the tail for getting bit and gave me a pretty strong lecture. You know, why did he bite you? But he was too good. But the rules are, if the snake's too good, you've got to drop him and try another method of getting him in.
John Cairns' family has had a snake show here at La Perouse in Sydney for more than 80 years.
You go killing red-belly blacks, and these other larger, deadlier snakes are liable to get into a bigger number.
Oh, he's bitten the other one.
He has a good old bite on his mate. Snakes are not immune from their own venom. Though certainly an average sort of a bite like that might give him a headache, I don't know. Dad was into the snakes when he was a kid, when he was quite small. He used to be catching snakes, running away from home. He set up snake business in Melbourne when he was around about 12 or 13, and the police shipped him back to Sydney. There's too many deaths from snake bites without having a young kid down there with snakes, and Dad just went on from there, and then he met Mum and they teed up together and got married. And so snakes has been in our family as long as I can remember. So the brother and myself, naturally, we never ever considered that we was going to take the snake show over at La Perouse, but when Dad passed on, we just automatically set up. From the tiger snake bite that I first had, there wasn't no initial effect whatsoever, and as time progressed my eyes got worse and I felt a little giddy and whatnot, and I was taken to hospital and given anti-venom, and the next morning I was okay. But every time I've had a tiger snake bite, it's normally been a complete different reaction. At one time it was a black tiger snake from Tasmania, and all I did was get sleepy. My pulse went down to about 30, and I said to my wife, she wanted me to go to hospital. If it gets below 30, we'll go to hospital. And she went to sleep, and so I went to sleep, and I woke up and I was okay. But other bites, it's been a different thing altogether. I brought up blood, had tremendous cramps in the stomach, splitting headaches. So every time I've had a bite, they have been different. Because the bites, they don't hurt. The bites from Australian snakes, on my own personal experience and experience of all my friends, initially the bite is nothing. There's no pain, burning, stinging, irritation in any shape nor form. So people get bit by deadly snakes and they do nothing about it. And this is why we have fatal bites, I think. It's a shame, because if the snakes hurt like the vipers do from other countries, instant pain, people would know there's venom there. In terms of recorded deaths, the tiger snake has claimed the lives of more Australians than all our other snakes added together. But over the last few years now, the tiger snakes numbers have gone down because of agricultural extension. So there's not so many tigers around now. We still have fatal bites from tiger snakes, but people now are moving more to the urban area to live or recreation and bushwalking more, and consequently more bites from brown snakes. And brown snakes are now claiming more victims than the tiger.
In terms of drop-for-drop potency, the common brown snake has the second most toxic terrestrial snake venom known. Common brown snakes capture their prey in a way that is different from the way taipans do. Taipans have a snap-release bite, very accurate, and just sit back and wait. Common browns, by comparison, will grasp a prey animal, and it can be anything from a frog to a small mammal. They grasp the animal, begin to inject the venom, and will often whip a couple of coils around the animal to help immobilise it while the venom takes action. I think the common brown would figure most prominently in fatalities in the Australian setting. The degree of provocation to require a common brown snake to bite is fairly small. So given they occur where the population occurs, usually and very frequently in big numbers, and given their touchy temperaments, it's not surprising that they figure prominently in the statistics, I think.
A frantic race today to save the life of a 31-year-old Derby man bitten by a deadly western brown snake. Gravely ill, the victim was brought to Perth by a flying doctor.
By the time the victim arrived in Perth this morning, he'd lapsed into a coma.
Oh, look, he's very critical at the moment.
The man was bitten on the finger by the western brown yesterday evening. The snake had been curled up in a bucket when it struck. Overnight, doctors at Derby Hospital gave the victim 5 doses of antivenom, but his condition continued to worsen, forcing an emergency airlift.
Well, the problem with brown snake primarily is that it's a snake that causes abnormal bleeding and interferes with the normal clotting that occurs for people. And afterwards, after it had been bitten by this snake, it may well cause areas to bleed, any puncture wounds, sometimes from the teeth, from the nose.
Unfortunately, despite the best efforts of the hospital staff, the man died the next day.
Common browns are very, very well adapted to cleared farmland and suburban land. Wherever there are mice and there's shelter, in eastern Australia at least, you can find common brown snakes.
The fangs are very tiny, up to 3 to 5 millimetres in length, but because the venom is so potent and the snake gives a very efficient bite, the complications of brown snake toxicity are very important.
Correct first aid is essential, and it has to happen quickly.
You're going to be fine.
A constricting bandage over and around the wound, and a splint to keep the limb immobile. The aim is to keep the venom from moving through the lymphatic system.
Clotting starts within minutes after envenomation as the venom is circulating in the bloodstream. The clots then break down. The clotting products in the blood, which are normally there to protect us all the time, are then used up. So within sometimes 1 or 2 hours, the blood will not clot. There's nothing left to clot in the body, and at the bite site where the fangs have struck the victim, often the oozing of blood continues there. The gums may start to bleed, the nose may start to bleed, but even more importantly, spontaneous bleeding inside the brain can occur, and it's a cause of death in brown snake envenomation.
They gave me antivenin. About 10 o'clock that night was the last time they did a blood test. I felt fine, I was feeling really, really good. About 2 o'clock or 1 or 2 o'clock that night, or the next morning, shall I say, another doctor came on shift. He came straight into me and said, I want to give you more antivenin. And I said, mate, I look fine, I feel fine, everything's fine, the antivenin's worked, I feel great, not a problem. He argued with me, I argued back with him, because like I say, I don't want to have antivenin as least amount of times as possible. He made me sign a form, blah, 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 to say that I'd refuse it, so I did, no worries, and the next morning I sort of checked myself out of hospital, feeling fine. Unfortunately, by that night, by about 6 o'clock that night, all the plasters that had been giving me injections and drips and all that sort of stuff started turning red. I sort of peeled them off, and next minute there's just blood oozing out of every pore where there was a cut or a mark on me, and I knew straight away that the antivenin had worn off, that it hadn't completely got rid of all the venom, and I had to go back to hospital, and they gave me 2 more ampoules. Otherwise I probably would have died, yeah.